of great comedians that are big now, like Jon Stewart, for example. I think it was Short Attention Span Theater. I think that was the show
Yeah,
that he was
yeah.
hosting.
John
Yeah,
was the
that's one
host
of
of.
those like forward thinking, ahead of their time kind of things too. That Jon Stewart.
Yeah, that's been pointed out to me. Yeah, we were showing clips from movies and series, funny clips, and John was the host of that. Um, and he at the time, I guess now everybody puts up their favorite funny clip from a movie on YouTube. Somebody pointed out to me, hey, that's what we were doing back then.
Yeah.
But John, who was a very new comic. I mean, I think he had been on a young comedian special on HBO, which is how we knew he was around. But he was not really working much, and we snagged him. And as soon as I saw him on TV, as soon as I saw him on Short Attention Span Theater, I knew he was great. I just knew, because not only was he funny, but he was like, you could tell he was like sensitive and empathetic, and cared about what he was doing and wanted to do a good job, and wanted to connect with the audience in lots of different ways other than just being funny. It really came through. So yeah, one of one of one of the good moments in early Comedy Central history was
Finding
finding
Jon
Jon
Stewart.
Stewart.
Yeah.
Now he left. He went. We became Comedy Central, and Short Attention Span Theater was on Comedy Central. And John was still the host, but he left to go to MTV, and that was typical in those days. Whenever we found somebody who was good, MTV came
MTV had
along
the
enough.
money. Hey.
I would like to make twice as much,
Yeah.
and kind of like huge audience. So a lot of talent kind of came and went, but notably, Jon Stewart in a few years came back, and we stayed close to him. Meaning, he did some work for us along the way while he was at MTV, and that was a good thing. He is a really nice guy, great guy. I enjoyed hanging around with him when I did, getting to know him.
Yeah, I wanted to, he is known for being empathetic and, being able to connect on a deeper level. I think like last year, or maybe it was this year, when he's been doing this for years. He's been advocating for, 9/11 firefighters in Congress and stuff like that. And you really get to see that side of him. And there was an excerpt from the book that like made me think about, oh, this is who he's always been. And I kind of want to read that too. And this, to kind of preface this was him when I believe you guys fired his co-host, and he was making a stand about, I'm going to leave with her. And this is what he said. We took a cab to the studio and found John in the conference room waiting for us. He got right to the point. You can't do this, he said, clearly upset and almost shouting. You can't just fire Patty without even talking to me about it. We're partners. We've been working together for 3 months. It's outrageous. I didn't say anything for a few seconds. John continued, I'm quitting. If Patty goes, I go. Before this, my experience with comedians was that they were in it for themselves, mostly, and I understood that. Comedy was a tough business, and comedians had to spend a lot of time and energy looking out for themselves. I never imagined anyone would get indignant over the fate of a fellow performer. But here was Jon Stewart, a young, relatively unknown comedian, taking a stand for his partner. And like, that was just kind of like, wow, like even young and unknown, and didn't have any real clout or pull to say. And like, he was already kind of showing who he really was and like who he would come to be.
Yeah, that's true. You saw it all there. I did. I'll tell you one interesting, kind of a funny story about John that's not in the book. I said he was a great guy, and we kept in touch a little bit. But I went on to other things, and he got real famous doing the Daily Show. And so I was in the city with my family, and we were having brunch, and John walks by, and he's there too, right? And he had to talk to someone. So I didn't want to make a big scene, so I just said, "Hey, John, it's Art Bell. Nice to see you." And he was like, "Hey, great to see you, Art. Great to see you." And he was so nice to me. And I said, "Let me introduce my family." And I introduced him, my wife and my 2 kids. And he's like, "Hey, great to see you." And we sat down. We had breakfast. John left. He said goodbye before he left. Great to see me. And then later, we got out of the restaurant. I said to my kids, who were, I must have been 12 or 10, around there. I said, "Hey, so what'd you think of Jon Stewart?" And they said, "That was Jon Stewart?" Why didn't you tell us that was Jon Stewart? You just said that was your friend John. We didn't know who it was.
That was my friend John. Like, oh.
And they never forgave me for that. You know? They just thought he was some guy I knew. Very funny. Very funny.
It's like, oh, hi, nice to meet you, sir, Mr. John. Like,
well, he had his hat down and his beard, so he wouldn't be recognized on a Sunday morning. So it was funny. Anyway, that's the kind of guy who was. Great guy.
Yeah, it's always great to see, guys, comedy heroes, people that you look up to, kind of be the good person that they portrayed themselves to be. Like it's always nice to see that. You don't always see that.
You don't.